This is Firecrackers. You missed quite a lot, but don't worry, you can catch up with us on our Facebook and YouTube channel. We're streaming live there. And now we have Olariwa Joniyitan, who is joining us live from Lagos. She is a founder, Seed Care and Support Foundation. Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us on Firecrackers at this time.
Hi, nice to be here.
All right, thank you so much for joining us. So now to the topic that we have at hand, that is the reevaluation of education in Nigeria. So we just played the report now of the Minister of Education trying to reshape people's perspective on what had happened during a meeting that they had, that they are not trying to scrap the GSS and SSS, but they are just trying to remodify it in a way so that the children would not be having to, one of the reasons is that the children would not be having to write so many examinations to cross from GSS to SSS. How do you see that new development?
Okay, so just like the minister said, one of the reasons this is being proposed is to align with the global structure of 12 years of continuing education, which, has its own benefits. We cannot, say that that is not a great thing. But, looking at our own unique challenges in Nigeria, sometimes we just try to say we need to align to global things, but we're not addressing our unique challenges. And our first unique challenge is the fact that our foundation is very poor. So we have issues around foundational literacy and numeracy, our learning poverty, which is, children not being able to read at the age of 10 is almost at 70%. So yes, this is a great, policy or thing that we're proposing, but are we really addressing the root cause of our challenges? And our challenge is that our children are not learning. Learning outcomes should be the North Star of how we're structuring our education system. Just adding years, additional years is not it is a great thing, but it's not just the only thing. We need to ensure that we're having a holistic solution to our challenges. And yes, having many exams is leading to a lot of attrition in our education system. I acknowledge that a lot of children, drop out at 9 years of education. Removing that barrier would encourage more children to stay in school. And also, if we're able to make that additional 3 years relevant, we'll find more children staying in school, because we're not asking ourselves the real question, why are they leaving? And so just plastering additional 3 years to say they must stay, is not the ultimate solution. It's a great recommendation, but it's not addressing the root cause. We're just addressing the symptoms. That's my opinion.
Okay, all right. Some stakeholders have opined that perhaps we need to tailor our education in Nigeria to address some of our pressing issues. Some people use countries like China, for example, how they have been able to remodel their education. You see their kids in school, they are already learning things like carpentry, engineering, and things like that. Do you think that perhaps it's something that we could also adopt in Nigeria when it comes to incorporating maybe entrepreneurship, creativity, craft, and things like that, catching them while they're young? Do you think that perhaps this new remodeling should also incorporate things like that, so we don't have kids, even if they don't wish to go to university, once they are done with secondary school, they could still immediately get started on something that will be able to benefit the country and also them symbiotically? What do you say about such initiative?
All right, so it's important that we evaluate what our country really needs and ensure that our education system delivers that for us. So it's not just about saying China is teaching carpentry. If we're not seeing our unique advantage as carpentry, there's no need for our education system to deliver that for us. So my opinion is that yes, we need to ensure that we're giving skills to our children. I mean, it's very important. Why are children dropping out of school? We need to ask ourselves those questions. If our children are leaving because they cannot see the interaction between why they're in school and what the labor market is asking for. So they are going to school, they cannot see the reason for going to school, linking to how their future looks like, then there's no need. So they just drop off. One of the analysis that was done in Lagos State at the point when the comprehensive school program was done for senior secondary school to keep children in school, it was found out that a lot of children were leaving because they needed to start earning income, and they were not learning trades that would allow them to be able to start earning income. And so that program was then designed to be able to give the children some vocational training so that they can stay in school. So it's important that we engage our young people, our children, in things that are relevant for the market. So like you mentioned, entrepreneurship. I mean, I wrote an entrepreneurship book for 7-year-olds, and people were like, how will children learn entrepreneurship at 7? I learned entrepreneurship from my mom, who was a market woman. And I was able to understand marketing. I was able to understand accounting, even from when I was a child. And so it's critical that our children are not only book smart, they're also street smart. They understand entrepreneurship. They're career ready, even at secondary school level, because like we understand, not every single person or young person in Nigeria would go to university. And so is our secondary school education providing what our children need to be able to go into the labor market if they decide to. So that's the question we need to ask ourselves. And that goes back into the curriculum. Now, is our curriculum preparing our children, for the workforce, for the market? What we do is a lot of rote memorization. Our lesson notes, as simple as the lesson notes of our teachers, if you look at the objectives of those lessons, they're saying, at the end of this lesson, children will be able to define this. We're not defining. They should be able to do certain things when they are done with the lesson. Most of our lessons should be project-based so that when they are done with that lesson, they know what they're able to do with it. And it's not even only skills. Our subjects must be linked to the real world. I was a terrible child with mathematics because I didn't understand how that linked to my life. So when they taught me set theory to do what? Angle of elevation and depression to do what? So if it is not clear as to how this is linked to my life and how I'm going to use it in the real life, in the real world, then I'm not truly learning, and I'm not truly learning for my use, for my skills, and for me being able to give back to my society and my country. So that's the way I think we need to rethink education right now, because right now we're just about, going to school, getting A or B or C and passing exams that we don't need to. Uganda right now, they go up to P7, primary 7. They are also considering scrapping P7 and scrapping primary leaving examinations. So every country is rethinking education right now, but we need to rethink education in the context of ensuring that our children see the relevance between what they're learning in the classroom and the real world.
Okay, so for this restructuring, what are the things that you would like to say that you feel could be answers to some of the basic problems that we are having in Nigeria, that if it is incorporated in our education, maybe in a few years' time, Nigeria could be one of those leading economies in the world?
So the first thing is to look at the critical things, and there are clearly certain critical things that we need to look at. The first is the curriculum, and I'm going to talk straight to NERDC. They're working on the curriculum. Let's acknowledge that they're doing their work, but we also need to ensure that the work that we're doing leads to improved learning outcomes, not just cramping the curriculum with multiple subjects. We need to ensure that what these subjects, entail are relevant for the society, one, and then the way the lessons are structured are ensuring that we're looking at great outcomes. So we're looking at objectives that are relevant, not just defining or listing the characteristics, but really how do these things translate to learning. And that's my advice to NERDC first. And then I will go back to our teacher training. So there's no way we can diverge quality education from the person that is imparting that knowledge. Our teachers need to be able to deliver the proper curriculum. So curriculum is one, the person delivering the curriculum is also very critical. And that's why we say that learning can take place anywhere under a tree if you have a great teacher. So we need to ensure that our teachers are properly equipped. They understand the curriculum, they're able to deliver, and they have the right tools to be able to ensure that they can deliver this right education for the children. So foundational literacy and numeracy, we need to ensure if a child cannot read the language of instruction, then there's nothing you can do. Whether they're using their mother tongue, whether they're doing it in English, we need to ensure that we are ensuring that the foundational literacy and numeracy is solid. That is when you can build on it. We need to get the foundation right, and then we can build on it with additional years of education so that they can continue to learn, the skills and other things that they require for the labor market. So first, curriculum. Second, our teachers. Then third, I would like to look at ensuring quality across board. And quality is a big thing that we do not have time to discuss on this segment, but it's important that we ensure quality assurance, which is what is ensuring that every time the school can deliver quality education for the child that they serve.
Thank you, Aura. Speaking about the language of instruction, which would you advocate might be better for kids that are learning? Is it the mother tongue or the national language? Which do you think might be more effective in impacting knowledge to students?
Sorry, can you repeat that? I didn't get your question.
Okay, I was asking about the language of instruction in schools. Which do you think might be better for these kids? Is it the mother tongue or the national language, that is the English language? Which do you think might serve that purpose of better impacting knowledge on these students in schools?
All right. So when we're talking about the language of instruction, research has shown that, mother tongue instruction really supports a child understanding at the early ages. And this is why in 2022, the NERDC, did the mother tongue policy in Nigeria. Research across other countries has shown that mother tongue instruction is the way to go for full understanding. We've seen a lot of gains when it comes to using the mother tongue to teach. But like I always say, Nigeria is unique. We have over 500 languages, and that's what's right. I mean, that's the truth. But we do need to ensure that even though we have a mother tongue policy, which is great, and I think it's the way we should continue to go, if we have challenges with implementation, that is what we should be looking at, not saying that or proposing that this should be scrapped. It is where there are challenges with implementation, are we addressing those challenges? So if we take Nigeria, for instance, we have some homogeneous states that they speak predominantly one language. So if you take maybe Oyo State, predominantly you would see Yoruba there. But when you come to Lagos, we're heterogeneous because we are a melting pot of different tribes in Nigeria. And the mother tongue policy might be a challenge in a state like Lagos. So it is not to say that the mother tongue policy is not working in Nigeria. It is to say that we have certain challenges in certain states, and how do we address it? Because research has shown that this is something that works. It is not just for us to scrap it because we're having challenges in some states with implementation. We have not fully put, our money where our mouth is when it comes to mother tongue instruction in Nigeria. But research has shown that this is something that works and it should not be discarded, in my own opinion. It is for us to really look at the states that are challenging and looking at how we can address those ones. But for the states that are predominantly homogeneous, where they speak predominantly one language, then we can continue with our mother tongue policy. And for some communities, there are states that speak more than one language. They can still address the issues when it comes to local government. So if a certain local government speaks a predominant language, that can be used for the language of instruction in those local governments. But this is not a policy that should be discarded.
Okay, all right. Looking at all the restructuring that the federal government seem to want to do, that is when it comes to our unity schools, separating them into basic and secondary school. How do you see that helping us in the country? Because it seems as if it wants to be modeled or after the US education system of having the middle school, the junior high, and the high school. Do you see that working for us here in Nigeria?
Um, sometimes the structure is really not what is education. I mean, it's good to define the structure, but it's also for us to say, what are we learning? So whether you call it grade 1 to grade 12, which is 12 years, or you call it 6-3-3-4, which adds up to 12, it's still 12 years. Whether you now separate it as 6 or 9-3 or 6-3-3, I mean, it is what are the outcomes? That's my own opinion. What are we really trying to do? By the time we start dividing it, and the division is based on, uh, exams leading to the next segment, that's where I have too many exams leading to the next section. That's where I have a challenge. So it's like saying, oh, okay, we want to divide it into 3-3-3-3. So lower primary, upper primary, junior secondary, senior secondary, and then there'll be exam at lower primary to get to upper primary. There'll be exam from upper primary to get to junior one. So it's really about, how the children transition from one section to the other, and whether that transition is leading to, us losing a lot of children, in the system. So for me, it is, how are we looking at the system itself rather than the structure? Because everything we're talking about right now still adds up to 12, and that's the main thing. But really, learning outcomes and how our children are doing, comparing them to what is happening in the world and what Nigeria needs, is what we should be looking at. So I mean, I wouldn't focus too much on the 12, 4, 3. I mean, like I said, everything adds up to 12.
All right, so one more question before we finally let you go. Do you think that the Nigerian government perhaps need to bring back free education like our parents enjoyed, or even for some older people that the ones that they enjoyed? Do you think that the federal government perhaps need to bring that back so that it might ensure that every Nigerian child is well educated?
Hmm. This is a very tough question. I mean, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria says that free education up to even tertiary education. So it's not like bring it back. That's what the Constitution says. But we are fast realizing that the government cannot be the sole provider of education, but they should regulate education. We need, free education to ensure that, no child is left behind, but our shared population and how serious we can see our government as, because, right now the education budget is just 7%, nothing close to the recommendation of 20 to 25, 26%. So, and over the years, we've not seen our government being really serious about education, so, and we need to work now, because children are only children once. We cannot leave them devoid of an education. Every single day, a child is going through our education system. And so if we say that we are waiting for government to provide free, quality public education, we're really kidding ourselves at the moment. But while that is the North Star and what our government should be doing, that is what they should be doing. We need government to also regulate and properly support the private sector that is working with them, the non-state sector. So while we're waiting and advocating for free public education, we need to also ensure that we hold them accountable to be able to support the non-state system that is complementing them in providing education for children, especially in the low-income areas where government is not reaching at the moment, where you wouldn't see a public school. And those kind of schools that are supporting those communities are not even getting any support from government. They're not being regulated. They're not being recognized. They're not being included. No support, and they're not even being engaged. You find certain communities that are cut out of the government system in terms of education. They've not even seen a public school in their community before. And so when private sector steps up to do that, we expect that government also supports them. And so while we wait and advocate for free public education, because that is what government should be doing, we also need to support the non-state sector that is complementing them right now.
Okay, all right. We thank you so much for sharing with us from the wealth of your experiences. Thank you so much for being on Firecrackers today. We truly appreciate your presence.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that's Olariwa Jonito, who joined us live from Lagos, the founder, Seed Care and Support Foundation.